She said, "I'm not cutting off my ex just because you're insecure." "Fair point," I said. Accepted Amsterdam, the position I'd declined 3 times for her. She realized I was serious when she showed up at my apartment to work things out. The new tenant answered the door. I, 29M, used to think that relationships were like the code I write for a living. You have inputs, you have processes, and if everything is syntax correct, you get a desired output, a happy life, a stable home, a future. I'm a senior systems architect, which is just a fancy way of saying I build the digital backbones for massive companies. I deal with logic, structural integrity, and fail-safes all day long. But for the last 2 years, I was running a program that was riddled with bugs, and the biggest glitch in my system was my girlfriend. Let me paint the picture for you so you understand why I feel like such an idiot for letting it go on this long. I make good money. I'm not saying that to brag, but it's relevant to the story. I work 60-hour weeks, I handle high-stress server migrations, and I get compensated for it. My girlfriend, 26F, on the other hand, was a freelance social media coordinator. Now, I have nothing against the gig economy, but in her case, freelance meant she posted a photo of a croissant for a local bakery maybe twice a week and spent the rest of the time scrolling through TikTok or manifesting abundance while I paid the rent, the utilities, the grocery bill, and the lease on her car. I didn't mind the financial imbalance at first. I loved her. I thought we were building something. I thought I was investing in our future. But looking back, I wasn't a partner, I was a venture capitalist for a failing startup that was funneling funds into a shadow account. And that shadow account was her ex, 28M. The ex was a musician. That's in quotes for a reason. He was the kind of guy who talked about his art constantly, but hadn't released a song in 4 years. He was moody, unemployed, and perpetually in a state of crisis. They had dated for 3 years before me, a volatile roller coaster of a relationship that apparently ended because they were too intense for each other. So, naturally, they decided to stay best friends. I tried to be the cool, modern boyfriend. I didn't want to be the jealous guy. I swallowed my discomfort when they texted late at night. I bit my tongue when she'd rush out to give him a ride because his car broke down again. I even stayed silent when she invited him to our Thanksgiving dinner because his family is toxic and he has nowhere else to go. I sat there carving the turkey I paid for while he critiqued the stuffing and made inside jokes with my girlfriend that I didn't understand. But the real issue wasn't just his presence, it was the entitlement. It was a slow creep. First, it was borrowing $20 here and there that I never saw back. Then it was him crashing on our couch for a weekend because his roommate was being a psycho. That weekend turned into 10 days. I remember coming home one night after a brutal 12-hour shift, just wanting to sit in my own living room and decompose, only to find him sprawled out on my leather recliner, feet on the table, watching Netflix on my account, eating the leftovers I had been saving for. He looked up at me, crumbs on his shirt, and said, "Sup, man, we're out of soda." Not hello, not thanks for letting me crash, just a notification of a resource depletion. I brought it up to girlfriend that night. We were in bed, the lights out. "I feel like a guest in my own house," I whispered. She sighed, that heavy, dramatic sigh she used whenever I expressed a need. "He's going through a really hard time right now. His creativity is blocked. He just needs a safe space. Why do you have to be so rigid? It's not like we can't afford the soda." We can't afford. That stung, but I let it go. I always let it go. Then came the Amsterdam situation. My company has a major hub in the Netherlands. They had been trying to get me to transfer there for a year. The package was insane. A 40% salary bump, a housing allowance that would get us a place on the canals, full relocation support. It was the dream. I love Europe. I love the architecture, the lifestyle, the directness of the people. The first time they offered it, I came home beaming with the contract. Girlfriend shut it down immediately. "I can't leave my mom right now," she said. Her mom lived 3 states away, and they talked maybe once a month, but okay. I declined. The second time, 6 months later, she said, "My career is just starting to pick up here. I can't lose my local clients." Her 2 clients, the bakery and a dog walker. I suggested she could work remotely or find new clients in a vibrant international city. She cried. She said I was being selfish. I declined again. The third time was 2 months ago. The vice president of my division called me personally. "We need you there," he said. "The team is struggling. Name your price." I named a price I thought was ridiculous. He agreed instantly. I went home and laid it all out for her. "This is life-changing money," I said. "We could travel every weekend. You could take those fashion courses you always talk about." She didn't even look at the numbers. She looked out the window and said, "X is in a really dark place. He's depressed. If I leave the country, he won't have anyone. I'm his anchor. I can't have that on my conscience." That was the first crack in the glass. I remember staring at the back of her head, realizing that my career, my dreams, and our potential future were being held hostage by the emotional stability of a man she was supposed to be done with. But I was deep in the sunk cost fallacy. I had invested 2 years. I was planning to propose. I thought if I just loved her enough, she'd eventually see that I was the priority. The breaking point didn't happen with a bang. It happened on a random Tuesday over a steak. I had been meal prepping lately because I was trying to get back in shape. Stress eating had added 10 pounds. I'd bought this beautiful dry-aged ribeye. I had seasoned it perfectly, vacuum sealed it, and was looking forward to cooking it all day. It was the one bright spot in a week of server crashes and client complaints. I came home early, around 5 p.m. I walked through the door, dropping my laptop bag, ready to start cooking. And there he was, VX, sitting at my kitchen island, eating my steak. He had cooked it, poorly. It looked gray and overdone. He was wearing a t-shirt that I was 90% sure belonged to me, a vintage band tee I hadn't seen in a month. Girlfriend was leaning against the counter, sipping a glass of wine, my expensive wine. "Oh, hey," she said, casual as anything. "You're home early." I stared at the plate. "Is that my steak?" The ex looked up, chewing with his mouth open. "Oh, my bad, bro. I didn't know it was reserved. Girlfriend said I could grab whatever." I looked at her. "I bought that specifically for tonight. I told you that." She rolled her eyes. "It's just meat. We can order pizza. Don't be so dramatic." "Why is he here?" I asked, my voice staying calm, but the pressure building behind my eyes. "His water heater burst," she said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "His apartment is flooded. He needs a place to stay for a few days until the landlord fixes it." "No," I said.
The air, it was foreign to our relationship. I never said no. "Excuse me?" she said, putting the wine glass down. "No," I repeated. "He's not staying here. I pay the rent. I pay for the food. I pay for the electricity. I'm not running a hostel for your ex-boyfriends. He needs to go to a hotel. I'll even pay for the Uber, but he's not sleeping here." The ex laughed, a short, sharp, arrogant sound. "Wow. Okay, someone's in a mood." Girlfriend slammed her hand on the marble counter. "You are being unbelievable. He's my best friend. He has nowhere else to go. Why do you have to be so toxic?" "Toxic?" I asked. "I'm toxic because I don't want the guy you used to sleep with living in my apartment?" "Yes," she shouted. "It's practically 2026. Grow up. You are so possessive. I'm not cutting off my ex just because you're insecure. You need to deal with your own jealousy issues and stop taking it out on him." She stood there, chest heaving, looking at me with pure contempt. The ex was smirking, taking another bite of my steak, watching the show. He knew he had won. He knew she would choose him. He knew I would fold because I always folded. And in that moment, looking at his smug face and her angry one, something inside me didn't just break, it rebooted. All the noise, all the anxiety, all the desperate attempts to make her happy, it all just cleared away. The logic centers of my brain came back online. I looked at the facts. Fact, she prioritized his comfort over my boundaries. Fact, she used my resources to support him. Fact, she used emotional manipulation, like insecure and toxic, to silence valid concerns. Conclusion, this system is compromised. Initiate shutdown sequence. I took a deep breath. I loosened my tie. I looked her right in the eyes, and I smiled. It wasn't a happy smile, but she didn't know the difference. "Fair point," I said. The room went silent. The ex stopped chewing. Girlfriend blinked, confused. She had her next argument loaded in the chamber, ready to fire, but I had just stepped out of the line of fire. What? She asked. You're right, I said, keeping my voice smooth, almost apologetic. I've been really stressed at work, and I think I'm projecting that onto you guys. It's not cool of me to be territorial. If his apartment is flooded, obviously he should stay here. We have the space. I'm sorry, guys. My insecurity is the problem here, not you. Girlfriend's face softened, shifting from rage to smug satisfaction instantly. Well, I'm glad you finally see that. Thank you for owning it.
Yeah, bro, no hard feelings, the ex mumbled, reaching for the wine bottle to refill his glass. I'm going to go for a run, clear my head, work on my issues. Good idea, she said, turning her back to me to focus on him. I walked into the bedroom, changed into my running gear, and grabbed my phone. I didn't go for a run. I walked 4 blocks to a quiet coffee shop that I knew had reliable Wi-Fi. I bought a black coffee, sat in the back corner, and opened my email app. I found the thread with the VP of Operations. Subject: transfer offer. Body: if the position is still available, I've reconsidered. I accept. I can be in Amsterdam by the 1st of the month. Please send the paperwork. I hit send. My heart was hammering in my chest, not from fear, but from adrenaline. I felt like I was defusing a bomb. The reply came in 3 minutes. Fantastic news. We were about to close the search. I'll have HR fast-track the contract. Welcome to the team. It was the 14th of the month. I had 16 days to dismantle my entire life in secret. I walked back to the apartment with a plan forming in my head. When I got back, they were watching a movie on the couch. He had his feet on the coffee table again. I didn't say a word. I went to the kitchen, cleaned up the mess they had made with the steak, and went to bed. The next 2 weeks were an Oscar-worthy performance. I became the perfect, docile boyfriend. I cooked breakfast for 3. I asked the ex about his music production and nodded politely when he talked about how the industry was afraid of his sound. I let them take the car. I let them monopolize the living room. Girlfriend was glowing. She thought she had finally broken me. She thought she had the perfect setup. The provider boyfriend who paid the bills, and the soulmate best friend who provided the emotional drama, all under one roof. She was so arrogant in her victory that she didn't notice I was slowly erasing myself from the picture. I started moving things out in my briefcase. Small things at first. Important documents, hard drives, watches, sentimental items. I dropped them off at a storage unit I rented near the airport. I contacted my landlord, Mr. Henderson. He was an old-school guy. Tough but fair. He liked me because I paid rent 3 days early every month, and I fixed the leaky faucet myself without bothering him. I called him from the office. Mr. Henderson, I'm getting transferred to Europe for work. It's an emergency deployment, essentially. I need to break the lease. You got 4 months left, he grunted. Standard penalty is 2 months' rent. I'll give you 3 months' rent up front, right now, cashier's check, if you agree to terminate the lease strictly on the 30th. But here's the catch. You can't put up a for rent sign, and you can't do any showings until the 1st. I need to keep this quiet for personal safety reasons. He didn't ask questions. He heard 3 months' rent for 0 work. Done, he said. I've got a waiting list anyway. I can have a new tenant in there by the 1st, easy. I won't say a word. So the lease was officially set to end at midnight on the 30th. The real turning point, the moment that took this from a breakup to a tactical nuclear strike, happened about a week before D-Day. I came home and found girlfriend's old iPad on the coffee table. She had upgraded to a new one that I bought her and used this one for recipes, but she had left her iMessage logged in. I know snooping is wrong. I know it violates trust, but at this point, I was a spy in enemy territory. I sat down and scrolled. What I saw made my blood run cold. It wasn't just cheating. I almost wished it was just cheating. It was a conspiracy. Girlfriend to ex 3 weeks ago. He's being so stingy about the credit card. I'll transfer the money for your lawyer as soon as his direct deposit hits Friday. Just stall them. Ex to girlfriend. I need $2K, babe. The DUI lawyer wants a retainer or he's walking. If I lose my license, I can't get to the gig. Girlfriend to ex. I'll tell him my mom needs dental work or something. He never checks. I'll get it. Don't worry. I scrolled further. Ex to girlfriend.
When are you going to dump this loser? I'm tired of sneaking around. We could move into his place if you get him to put you on the lease. Girlfriend to ex. I'm working on it. He's stubborn about the lease. But once he proposes, I'll have legal standing. Just be patient. We need his money right now. You know you can't pay rent. Ex to girlfriend. Just make sure you get the ring before you cut him loose. We can pawn it. I sat there, frozen. The betrayal was so calculated. She wasn't just using me, she was actively plotting to marry me just to secure housing rights and assets for her and her criminal boyfriend. The dental work money I gave her last month, the car repairs for her sister, all of it was funneling into her legal defense for a DUI I didn't even know he had. I did a quick mental tally. Over the last year, she had borrowed over $10,000 from me.
Or requested about $12,000 for various emergencies, all lies. I took photos of every single text message. I exported the chat logs. I sent them to my secure work email. That was the moment I decided that simply leaving wasn't enough. I needed to ensure consequences. I called a buddy of mine from college, Dan, who is a vicious civil litigator. Dan, I said, if I give someone money for a specific purpose like medical bills, and they use it for something else like a boyfriend's legal fees, is that actionable? That's conversion, Dan said. Maybe fraud/theft by deception, depending on the state. Why? I need you to draft a complaint. Unjust enrichment, conversion, the works. I have text evidence admitting to the scheme. Send it over, Dan said. I love frying gold diggers. The week of the departure, things got weird. I think she sensed I was distant, despite my nice guy act, the intuition of a parasite sensing the host is dying. She started dirty trick number 1 on a Thursday. She cornered me in the kitchen while I was making coffee. You haven't mentioned the engagement ring in a while, she said, her voice sharp. X thinks you're getting cold feet. Are you leading me on? I'm just focused on work, I said, not looking up. Big project. She narrowed her eyes. You better not be planning anything. If you try to leave me, I'll tell everyone at your office that you hit me. I'll ruin you. Who do you think HR will believe? The crying woman or the big scary man? I froze. This was the nuclear option. She was threatening my livelihood. I turned to her, keeping my face completely blank. I would never hurt you, I said softly, and I'm not leaving. I love you. Inside, I was screaming, but I had my phone in my pocket, and I had started the voice recorder app the second she walked in. I had the threat on tape. Dirty trick number 2 came the next day. She called me at work, sobbing hysterically. I'm pregnant, she wailed. I paused. We used protection, religiously, and frankly we hadn't been intimate in 6 weeks. The math didn't math. Okay, I said, that's big news. We'll go to the doctor tonight. I'll leave work early. No, she snapped too quickly. I just took a home test. I'm scared. I need you to send me $500 right now for a private consultation. I want to go alone first. I'll come with you. I insist. I'm not sending money for a medical procedure I'm not present for. You don't trust me, she screamed. I'll be home in an hour, I said. When I got home, she claimed it was a false alarm. Just stress, she said. The $500 request was just a desperate grab for cash for the ex, probably for bail or fines. The 30th arrived, the day of the flight. My flight was at 4 p.m. I had arranged for a specialized moving crew, corporate relocation specialists who are fast and discreet, to arrive at 9:15 a.m. I woke up at 7 a.m. I told girlfriend I have an all-day site visit in Connecticut. I won't be back until late tonight, maybe midnight. Her eyes lit up. Oh, okay. Well, drive safe. I knew what that meant. It meant she could have the ex over all day without hiding it. I will, I said. Have a good day. I grabbed my briefcase, which actually contained my passport and laptop, and walked out the door. I didn't kiss her goodbye.
I drove around the corner and waited. At 9 a.m. sharp, she left in her car, presumably to go pick up the ex from his mum's house or wherever he was crashing. As soon as her tail lights disappeared, I signaled the movers. They were parked down the street. We hit the apartment like a SWAT team. I had already tagged everything. Take the couch, take the TV, take the bed, take the dining table, take the coffee maker, take the silverware. I paid for everything in that house. I had receipts for everything. We left her stuff, her clothes, her cheap vanity table, her collection of crystals, and the chaotic pile of boxes she never unpacked. By 12:30 p.m., the apartment was a shell. It echoed when you walked. I did one final thing. I took the color printouts of the text messages, the ones where she called me a loser, plotted to steal my money, and planned to move the ex in. I taped them to the wall right where the 65-inch TV used to hang. I used blue painter's tape so it wouldn't damage the paint. I wanted my deposit back, after all. I grabbed a Sharpie and circled the part where she said, "He's stubborn. Once he proposes, I'll have legal standing." Next to it, I wrote, "Proposal denied. Lease term terminated. Goodbye." I left my house keys on the kitchen counter. I locked the door behind me. I took an Uber to the airport. I blocked her number on my personal phone. I blocked the ex. I blocked her sister. But because I'm a little bit petty and I wanted to ensure the safety of the transition, I kept my old SIM card in a cheap burner phone I bought at Best Buy. I boarded the plane, business class, champagne before takeoff. As the plane taxied, I felt the vibration of the burner phone in my pocket. It started. I didn't look at it until we were at cruising altitude. 47 missed calls, 112 text messages. Text 1, 2:45 p.m. Where is the TV? Why is the apartment empty? Is this a sick joke? Text 2, 3 p.m. Pick up the phone. The landlord is here with some guy. Text 3, 3:15 p.m. You can't do this. I live here. I have rights. I'm calling the police. Text 4, 3:30 p.m. X is freaking out. He says he's going to find you and beat your ass. Text 5, 4 p.m. Baby, please. I saw the papers on the wall. It was just a joke. I was venting to him. I love you. Please don't do this. Text 6, 4:15 p.m. The landlord is changing the locks. They're putting my stuff on the curb. Do something. Here's the legal reality she didn't understand. She wasn't on the lease. I kept her off because her credit score was roughly the same as a temperature in Alaska. In our state, if the lease ends and the tenant, me, vacates, anyone left behind without a lease agreement is a squatter or a trespasser. Mr. Henderson, having his 3 months rent bonus and a new tenant signed and ready, had zero patience. He told her the lease was over, I was gone, and she had to leave immediately or he'd call the sheriff for trespassing. I landed in Amsterdam 8 hours later. It was morning there. The air was grey and crisp. I checked my email. Subject, lease termination. From Mr. Henderson. She put up a fight, screamed a lot. Police were called to escort her off the property. New tenant moved in this morning. Thanks for a clean break. Good luck in Europe. I breathed. It was over. But not quite. Remember the satisfying revenge part? 2 weeks later, I was settling into my new apartment overlooking the Kaisersgracht Canal. I had a bike. I had a new routine. My stress levels had dropped by 90%. I called Dan. Execute the lawsuit. We filed the civil suit in the States. Plaintiff, me, versus defendant, girlfriend. We sued for $12,500 plus legal fees, citing conversion of funds, unjust enrichment, and fraud. We used the text messages as Exhibit A and Exhibit B. Process servers are tenacious. Since she had been kicked out of my apartment, she had nowhere to go. She ended up crashing at the ex's place, which, as it turned out, was his mum's basement. The process server found her there and served her the papers. But I didn't stop there. I had one more grenade to throw. I knew the ex's mother was a strict religious woman who thought her son was a troubled angel. She had no idea about the DUI or the extent of his leeching. I put together a nice little packet, a copy of the
public record of his DUI charge, which proved he was driving on a suspended license, copies of the texts where they discussed scamming me to pay for his lawyer, and a polite letter explaining that her son and my ex-girlfriend had been funding their lifestyle through fraud. I mailed it to the mother's house. The fallout was spectacular. I heard about it through a mutual friend who I hadn't blocked. The ex's mother read the packet. She kicked the ex out of the basement. She told him he had to get a job or get out. She kicked girlfriend out immediately, calling her a bad influence and a thief. So now, girlfriend was homeless, single because the ex dumped her the second the money train stopped, and facing a lawsuit. She didn't show up to court. She couldn't afford a lawyer, and she thought if she ignored it, it would vanish. Bad move. In the U.S. legal system, if you don't show up, you lose by default. I got a default judgment for the full amount, $12,500 plus court costs. Then we moved to the collection phase. My lawyer found out she finally got a job as a receptionist at a car dealership. We filed a writ of garnishment. Now, every 2 weeks, 25% of her paycheck is automatically deducted and sent to an account I control. It's not about the money. I donate it to a local animal shelter. It's about the reminder. Every single payday, she looks at her stub and sees my name. She sees the cost of her betrayal. A few months ago, I got a message on Facebook from a guy named Dave. I didn't know a Dave. Hey man, weird message. I'm the guy living in your old apartment. Some crazy lady came by yesterday banging on the door screaming about how she wanted to work things out and that you were just confused and she needed to pick up her mail. I told her you moved to Europe months ago. She turned white. She looked like she was going to pass out. Just thought you should know. I replied, thanks, Dave. If she comes back, call the cops. She's not confused. She's just broke. I closed my laptop. I looked out at the canal boats drifting by. I took a sip of my coffee. Life is code. Sometimes you have bad inputs. Sometimes the logic gets twisted. But there is always a way to debug the system. You just have to be willing to delete the corrupted files, even if you spent years writing them. Being insecure is usually just your gut telling you that you're being played. Listen to it. Don't negotiate with terrorists even if they have nice smiles. And if you have to leave, don't just close the door. Burn the whole house down on your way out. Legally speaking, of course. If you enjoy stories about forensic financial revenge and watching entitled moochers get absolutely wrecked by the legal system, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you're currently texting your ex while your partner is in the other room paying the bills, well, you better hope your partner isn't a systems architect. We check the logs.